Captain Jack Stone stood at the viewing window of the diplomatic vessel Horizon, watching as the massive alien station grew larger against the starfield. The structure was unlike anything humans had built, a spinning wheel of light and metal that housed the headquarters of the Eclipse Galaxy Federation. Quite a sight, isn't it? Meg Wilson joined him at the window. As the chief engineer of the mission, she couldn't help but admire the station's design. Her short red hair and practical jumpsuit stood in contrast to Stone's formal uniform. "It makes our best space stations look like children's toys," Stone said. His weathered face remained calm, but his eyes betrayed his worry. The Horizon represented humanity's first official delegation to the Federation after Earth had been grudgingly accepted as its newest and least important member. Humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago, while some Federation species had been crossing the stars for thousands of years. "They say the central hub alone is bigger than Manhattan," Wilson said, checking data on her tablet. "And it's powered by something called dark energy conversion. We're still decades away from that technology." Stone nodded. "That's why this meeting matters. We need allies, technology sharing, protection." He turned to face Wilson. "Remember, no matter what they say or do in there, we represent all of Earth. Stay calm." "Don't worry about me, Captain," Wilson said with a smile. "I grew up with 5 brothers. I know how to handle being the underdog." The ship's communication system crackled. "Captain Stone, we've been granted docking permission. Please prepare your team for arrival procedures." The Federation Council chamber overwhelmed the human delegation with its scale. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising tiers around a central speaking platform. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that Stone couldn't tell which part was their face. The air filled with a mix of translated voices, creating a constant background hum. "The human delegation may approach," announced a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. The translator in Stone's ear identified him as Ambassador Drell, the council moderator. Stone and Wilson walked forward with 3 other human representatives. They felt every alien eye following them. "Earth thanks the Federation for this opportunity," Stone began, following the practiced speech. "We come seeking friendship and knowledge exchange." A ripple of what sounded like laughter moved through the chamber. A large reptilian creature leaned forward from the highest tier. "Let us be direct, humans. Your species has been admitted only because your system sits at a strategic junction of travel routes. You have nothing else to offer." Stone kept his expression neutral. "With respect, Ambassador Kroll, humanity has much to contribute. Our adaptability, our creativity." "Primitive emotions," interrupted another alien, this one floating in a personal gravity field. "Your species still fights among itself. You have barely mastered the basics of space travel. You are children." For 2 hours, the pattern continued. Each time Stone tried to establish diplomatic dialogue, the more powerful Federation species dismissed human achievements and pointed out Earth's technological backwardness. When the formal proceedings ended, Ambassador Drell approached the humans with what passed for a smile. "The Federation has decided to offer Earth that welcoming gift." Stone felt a moment of hope. "That's very generous." "Follow me," Drell said. The transport took them to the far side of the station, to a massive bay where hundreds of ships and parts floated in organized sections. "This," Drell said with a sweep of his 4 arms, "is now Earth's." Wilson moved closer to the observation window. "What exactly are we looking at?" "Our disposal yard," Kroll said, joining them. "Technology and vessels deemed obsolete or irreparable by Federation standards." Stone struggled to keep his expression neutral. "You're giving us your garbage. We're giving you a head start," Drell said, not bothering to hide his condescension. "Even our scrap is centuries beyond your current capabilities. Perhaps studying it will help you catch up." The other aliens didn't bother hiding their amusement. Stone felt his face grow hot with anger, but he kept his voice steady. "Earth accepts your generous gift." Back on the Horizon, Stone paced the small conference room, while the rest of the delegation argued. "It's a direct insult," said the political officer, slamming his fist on the table. "We should refuse it and demand respect." "With what leverage?" asked the diplomatic advisor. "We're the newest, weakest member. We have no standing to demand anything." Wilson had been quiet, reviewing the inventory list the Federation had provided. She suddenly looked up. "Captain, we should take it." Everyone turned to her. "Take their garbage." "Have you lost your mind?" the political officer asked. Wilson turned her tablet around to show them. "This isn't just garbage. There are drive cores from 7 different technological traditions, weapons systems from species that have been extinct for centuries, sensor arrays more advanced than anything we've ever built." She stood up, excitement breaking through her usual calm. "They think they're mocking us, but they've just handed us the greatest collection of diverse technology in human history." Stone studied her face. "You think we can use it?" "I know we can." Wilson's eyes lit up with possibility. The Federation races all developed along different technological paths. They're so advanced that they've stopped looking sideways. They only look forward. But humans, we've always been good at taking existing ideas and combining them in ways no one else imagined. For the first time since arriving at the station, Stone smiled. "So while they're all advancing straight ahead, we can come at problems from angles they never considered," Wilson finished. "They're giving us the pieces to build something new, something unique." Stone nodded slowly, a plan forming. "How quickly can you assemble a team?" "Give me 2 weeks and a secure facility. I'll gather the best minds on Earth." Stone turned to the communication officer. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them." He paused, looking back at the salvage yard through the viewport. "Tell them we're accepting the Federation's gift with gratitude and request immediate resources for a new project." He turned back to the room, his expression determined. "We're going to call it Project Titan." Wilson grinned. "They gave us scrap, and we'll build a warship that will make them regret it." Stone finished. As the Horizon prepared to return to Earth with news of the Federation's gift, Captain Stone took one last look at the alien station. Let them laugh now, he thought. Soon enough, they would learn that underestimating humans was the biggest mistake they could make. 3 months after the Federation meeting, Meg Wilson floated in the center of a large chamber carved inside an asteroid in the outer reaches of the solar system. The secret facility, hidden in the Kuiper belt beyond Neptune, had been built in record time. Around her, pieces of alien technology hung suspended in zero gravity, organized in clusters by function. "How's the power core analysis coming along?" she asked, pushing herself toward a group of engineers working on a glowing cylinder. Dr. Alex Cooper, the project's propulsion expert, looked up from his tablet. His dark skin contrasted with the white lab coat that was standard for all Titan personnel. Fascinating and frustrating at the same time. This drive uses principles we've only theorized about. It's like giving Stone Age humans a jet engine. Wilson nodded. That's exactly what they did. They thought we'd just stare at it in confusion. Well, they weren't entirely wrong, Cooper said with a tired smile. We understand maybe 10% of how it works. 10% is a start, Wilson replied, patting his shoulder. Keep at it. She pushed off to another section, where Maria Diaz was connecting cables between an alien computing core and a human interface. Diaz had been the lead AI developer for the North American Union before Wilson recruited her. Any progress? Wilson asked. Diaz didn't look up from her work. I've managed to establish basic communication with the system. It's not designed to interact with our technology, but I'm building a translation layer. She pointed to lines of code scrolling on her screen. The alien AI architecture is completely different from ours. They build horizontally. We build vertically. Meaning, they create specialized systems for each function. We create generalized systems that stack abilities. Diaz finally looked up, her eyes bright with excitement. Their way is more efficient for specific tasks, but our way is more adaptable. I'm trying to create something that uses both approaches. Wilson made notes on her tablet. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Keep me updated. Her next stop was the weapons section, where Tom Reed was disassembling what appeared to be a cannon of some kind. Reed had previously worked on classified military projects before joining Titan. "Tell me something good, Reed," Wilson said as she approached. Reed looked up with a grin. "Good? How about amazing? This isn't just a weapon, it's art." He pointed to the inner workings. "The Federation species who built this. We think it was the Vosh. They use crystalline focusing instead of magnetic. More precise, less power-hungry. Can we replicate it? Not exactly, but that's the beauty." Reed held up a small device. "This is a standard human targeting system. By itself, nowhere near as good as the alien tech. But when I connect them," he pressed the device against a port on the alien cannon. The weapon hummed to life, projecting a holographic targeting display. "Our strength isn't building from scratch. It's adapting and combining. Their hardware, our software. Their power, our control systems." Wilson felt a surge of hope. All around the facility, her team was finding ways to make incompatible technologies work together. 6 months into the project, Captain Stone visited the asteroid base for the first progress report. Wilson led him through the facility, pointing out key developments. "The biggest breakthrough came when we stopped trying to understand everything and focused on results," she explained as they floated through the main construction hangar. "We've found that we can combine technologies from different Federation species in ways they never attempted." Stone raised an eyebrow. "Why would they never attempt it?" "Politics, mostly. The Federation species don't share well with each other. Each follows their own technological tradition. Plus, many of these systems were designed to be incompatible on purpose, to prevent enemies from using captured technology. But that doesn't stop us," Stone said, beginning to understand. "Exactly. We're outside their rules and traditions. We're taking pieces from a dozen different alien cultures and making them work together." Wilson gestured to the center of the hangar, where the skeleton of a massive ship was taking form. "That's Titan." Stone stared at the framework. "It's bigger than I expected. We had to expand the design. Some of the systems need more space than we initially calculated, but the results will be worth it." She led him to a small testing chamber where Cooper was working with a strange-looking engine. "Show him," Wilson said. Cooper nodded and activated the device. A small model ship rose in the air, suspended in what looked like rippling air. "That's not anti-gravity," Cooper explained. "It's a localized space-time distortion field. The Brel use it for short-range transport, but we've modified it to work as a shield. Physical weapons pass through it at greatly reduced velocity." "And energy weapons?" Stone asked. "Most are diverted or scattered. It's not perfect, but combined with conventional shields, it gives us layers of defense no Federation ship has." Stone looked impressed. "What about power requirements?" Wilson grimaced. "That's our biggest challenge. These systems were never meant to work together. The power draws are enormous." "Which brings us to the heart of Titan," Cooper added. "Follow me." They moved to a sealed chamber where a team worked around a pulsing cube of swirling energy. "We call it the hybrid core," Wilson explained. "It combines 3 different alien power generation systems, not just connected, but actually merged into a single new system." Stone stared at the cube. "Is it stable?" "Mostly," Wilson admitted. "We're still working on the containment field." As if on cue, the cube pulsed violently, and alarms blared. Cooper rushed to a control panel. "Containment fluctuation. Everyone back." The team moved with practiced efficiency, evacuating the room as the cube's light grew brighter. "Should we run?" Stone asked tensely. Wilson checked readings on her tablet. "No need. Watch." The cube expanded, then suddenly contracted, stabilizing into a steady glow. "The containment field is learning," Wilson explained, pride evident in her voice. "Dai has incorporated adaptive algorithms. Every fluctuation teaches the system how to better control the reaction. It's alive? Stone asked, concerned. Not alive, but not simply mechanical either. It's something in between, like much of what we're building here. Near the end of the tour, a security alarm sounded throughout the facility. Wilson quickly checked her communications device. Perimeter alert. Something's been detected near the asteroid. They rushed to the command center, where security officers tracked a small object moving erratically around the facility. Federation design, said the security chief. Looks like a spy drone. Stone's face hardened. They found us. Maybe not, Wilson said. It could be routine surveillance. The Federation patrols this region occasionally. Can we destroy it before it reports back? Stone asked. Wilson exchanged looks with Reed, who had joined them in the command center. I have a better idea, Reed said with a slight smile. Let's catch it instead. Within hours, the drone had been captured using a modified tractor beam. Instead of destroying it, Reed's team had already begun taking it apart in a secure lab. Stealth technology, Reed explained as they examined the drone. Some of the most advanced we've seen. But now it's ours to study. Wilson turned to Stone. Every challenge is an opportunity, even this intrusion. Stone nodded slowly, looking back at the skeletal form of Titan taking shape in the main hangar. How long until it's ready? He asked. Wilson considered the question. The basic systems, another 6 months. Full combat readiness, maybe a year. We're not just building a ship, Captain. We're inventing an entirely new approach to space technology. The Federation gave us scraps, Stone said, repeating their unofficial motto. Wilson smiled. And we're building something they never imagined possible. As Stone prepared to return to Earth with his report, he took one last look at the embryonic warship. For the first time since meeting the Federation, he felt a surge of hope. Humanity might be the newest species in the galaxy, but they would not remain the weakest for long. 1 year after Project Titan began, the massive warship was no longer just a skeleton. Its hull gleamed under the lights of the asteroid facility, now expanded to 3 times its original size to accommodate the growing vessel. Wilson stood on an observation platform with her core team, looking out at their creation with a mixture of pride and exhaustion. None of them had taken more than a few days off in the past year. She's beautiful, Cooper said, his eyes fixed on the ship. And terrifying, added Reed. Just like we wanted. The Titan was unlike any human or alien vessel ever built. Its shape defied standard design rules, with sections that seemed to flow into each other without clear boundaries. The hull was a patchwork of different materials, each chosen for specific properties rather than appearance. Atlas is ready for the full system test, Diaz said, tapping on her tablet. Atlas was the name they had given to the ship's integrated AI system, which Diaz had developed by combining human programming with alien processing cores. It had grown from a simple interface to a complex entity that could learn and adapt at an astonishing rate. Bridge is prepared, Wilson confirmed. Let's head up. The bridge of Titan was a marvel of human ingenuity. Unlike the sterile, minimalist designs favored by most Federation species, it felt almost organic. Workstations curved to fit human bodies, and displays projected information in 3 dimensions that operators could manipulate with hand gestures. All departments report ready, announced the communications officer as Wilson and her team took their positions. Wilson nodded and pressed a button on the central command console. Atlas, are you online? A deep, calm voice answered from everywhere and nowhere. I am operational, Chief Engineer Wilson. All systems show green status. Wilson looked at Diaz, who nodded with a smile of satisfaction. Begin pre-launch sequence, Wilson ordered. Around them, the ship hummed to life. Displays lit up, showing power levels rising smoothly across all systems. Hybrid core stable at 30% capacity, Cooper reported from the engineering station. That's more than enough for the test. Defensive systems online, Reed added from tactical. Shields, point defense, and weapons all responding. Wilson took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, their first full system test of the mighty vessel. Atlas, initiate control thrust test. 10% power, station-keeping thrusters only. Acknowledged, the AI responded. Initiating thrust in 3, 2, 1. The entire ship vibrated slightly as the maneuvering thrusters fired. On the main display, Wilson could see the Titan moving slowly away from its docking clamps. Perfect balance, Cooper said with a grin. Not even a degree of drift. Wilson allowed herself a small smile. Increased to 20%. Let's see how she handles. The ship moved more confidently now, sliding through the cavernous hangar with surprising grace for such a massive vessel. Now for the real test, Wilson said after several basic maneuvers had been completed successfully. Atlas, prepare for a short-range jump test. This was the most dangerous part. The Titan's propulsion system used a modified version of several alien faster-than-light technologies, combined in ways their creators had never intended. In simulations, it worked perfectly. In reality, they were about to find out. Jump drive charging, Cooper reported. Field stabilizing. Containment steady. We are go for jump. Wilson looked around at her team, seeing her own mix of fear and excitement mirrored in their faces. Atlas, execute jump. Target coordinates Alpha 1. Executing jump, the AI confirmed. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the view outside the bridge windows streaked and blurred. A sensation like falling and rising at the same time washed over everyone on board. 3 seconds later, the stars returned to normal. Jump complete, Atlas announced. We have arrived at coordinates Alpha 1. The bridge erupted in cheers. Wilson checked the navigation display. They had jumped precisely to their target point, just beyond Pluto's orbit. Perfect, she breathed. Absolutely perfect. Unknown to the Titan's crew, their jump had created an energy signature unlike anything seen in the Eclipse galaxy before. The unique combination of technologies produced a ripple in spacetime that propagated outward at faster-than-light speeds. At a Federation monitoring station, 6 light-years away, sensors detected the anomaly. Commander, a technician called out. I'm reading an unusual energy pattern from the Sol system. The station commander, a veteran of the Federation Survey Corps, moved to examine the readings. His eyes widened. That's impossible. Run a diagnostic on the sensors. Already did, sir. The reading is confirmed. The commander stared at the display, his mind racing. Send a priority message to Federation security. Someone in the human system is experimenting with unauthorized technology combinations. 3 days after the successful test, Wilson was summoned to an emergency meeting with Earth's Defense Council. Captain Stone was there, along with the highest-ranking military and political leaders. The Federation has demanded access to all our research facilities, the defense minister explained, her face grim. They claim we're violating technology protocols. They know about Titan, Wilson asked, alarmed. They know something, Stone replied. The energy signature from our jump test triggered their long-range sensors. They've dispatched investigators. Wilson exchanged worried looks with her team members. The project isn't ready for scrutiny. We need at least 6 more months for full combat readiness. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Finally, the defense minister spoke again. There's more. Our intelligence suggests that tensions between the major Federation factions have reached a breaking point. The Brel Collective and the Vosh Dominion are mobilizing their fleets. War seems inevitable. How does that affect us? Asked Reed. Stone leaned forward. Earth sits at a strategic junction. Both sides will want to secure our system. If we're seen as weak or neutral, we'll be occupied or worse. But if we're seen as strong, Wilson began. We need to reveal Titan, the minister finished, not to Federation investigators, but to the galaxy. We need to show that humanity is not to be trifled with. Wilson shook her head. The ship isn't ready. It performed perfectly in the test, Stone countered. A simple jump test. We haven't tested the full weapon systems, the advanced shielding. We're out of time, the president interrupted, speaking for the first time. The Federation inspection team will be here in 3 days. The vote has already been taken. Titan will be revealed. Wilson wanted to argue further, but the determination on the faces around her made it clear the decision was final. Very well, she said at last. But I want my entire team on board for the demonstration. If something goes wrong, we'll need to fix it on the fly. Agreed, said Stone. I'll command the ship personally. As the meeting ended and people began to file out, Wilson grabbed Stone's arm. This isn't how I wanted to introduce our creation to the galaxy, she said quietly. Stone looked her in the eyes. Sometimes the best moments in history aren't planned. They're forced upon us. Wilson nodded slowly. Well then, Captain, I suggest you pack your bags. Tomorrow, we unveil the most advanced warship the Eclipse Galaxy has ever seen. And hope, Stone added, that it's enough to earn humanity the respect we deserve. The day of revelation arrived with tension hanging in the air. Federation investigators were scheduled to arrive at Earth's orbital station within hours. The plan was to intercept them before they could begin their inspection, to show rather than hide. Captain Stone sat in the command chair on Titan's bridge, dressed in a new uniform created specifically for the ship's crew. Black with silver trim, it marked them as something new in the galaxy. Not just Earth's representatives, but pioneers of a bold approach to space travel. Status report, Stone ordered, his voice calm despite the pressure. All systems operational, Wilson replied from the engineering station. Hybrid core at 60% and stable. Weapons and shields ready, Reed added from tactical. Atlas is fully online and integrated with all ship systems, Diaz reported from her station. Stone nodded, satisfied. Communications, open a channel to Earth Command. Channel open. Sir. Earth Command, this is Titan. We are ready to proceed. The defense minister's voice came through clearly. Understood, Titan. Federation delegation will arrive at coordinates Delta 9 in approximately 40 minutes. Take position and await further orders. Acknowledged, Stone replied. He turned to his helmsman. Set course for Delta 9. Half speed. The massive warship moved smoothly out of the asteroid base that had been its birthplace. As it cleared the hangar doors, sunlight gleamed off its unusual hull for the first time. Beautiful, someone whispered on the bridge. Stone had to agree. Despite its patchwork nature, or perhaps because of it, Titan had a strange, dangerous beauty. It didn't look like a human ship or an alien one. It was something entirely new. Time to intercept point, Stone asked. 35 minutes at current speed, the navigator replied. Stone smiled slightly. Let's show them what Titan can do. Full speed. The ship surged forward, rapidly accelerating to speeds no Earth vessel had ever achieved within the solar system. The trip to the intercept point, which would have taken a conventional human ship hours, took just 15 minutes. Take us out of light speed, Stone ordered as they approached. Standard orbit of the meeting point. Titan slowed gracefully, taking position near the designated coordinates where the Federation delegation would arrive. Now we wait, Stone said, settling back in his chair. The Federation delegation arrived precisely on schedule. 3 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel, 1 large diplomatic vessel flanked by 2 smaller escorts. All bore the markings of the Brill Collective, one of the dominant factions in the Federation. They've spotted us, Reed reported, watching his sensors. Their weapons systems just went active. Defensive posture only, Stone ordered. No aggressive moves. The communications officer turned to Stone. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead Federation ship. On screen. The main display changed to show an alien face. Ambassador Drell, the same 4-armed diplomat who had gifted Earth with the scrapyard a year ago, looked out at them with obvious surprise. This is Ambassador Drell of the Federation Council. he said, his translator conveying the words in perfect English. "Identify yourselves immediately." Stone stood, straightening his uniform. "Ambassador Drell, how kind of you to visit our system again. This is Captain Jack Stone of the Earth Warship Titan. We thought we'd save you the trouble of inspection by meeting you here." Drell's eyes widened as he took in Stone's uniform and the unfamiliar bridge behind him. "That vessel, it contains unauthorized technology combinations. Explain yourselves immediately." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "Explain? Certainly. You gave us a gift of obsolete technology. We've put it to good use." "Impossible," another voice said, and the camera view widened to show Ambassador Kroll of the Vosh Dominion. No primitive species could integrate such diverse systems. "Yet here we are," Stone replied calmly. "Would you care for a demonstration?" Without waiting for a response, Stone nodded to Reed, who pressed a sequence on his console. Outside, Titan's defensive field became briefly visible, a shimmering bubble of distorted space surrounding the ship. That's Brell distortion technology, combined with Vosh particle physics," Drell said, clearly shocked. "The combination should be unstable or inefficient." "For you, perhaps," Wilson said, stepping forward to stand beside Stone. "Humans have a talent for making things work together." The Federation Council session was hastily assembled. Representatives from all major species gathered as news of the human warship spread through the galactic community. Earth's delegation, led by Stone and Wilson, stood in the center of the chamber that had once been the site of their humiliation. "The human vessel violates at least 17 technology protocols," Ambassador Kroll insisted, his reptilian features twisted with anger. "They've created dangerous combinations that could destabilize entire regions of space. Yet your own experts have confirmed the ship's systems are stable," the council moderator pointed out. "And they've done nothing illegal. We gave them the technology freely." "As scrap," Kroll hissed, "not to be rebuilt into that thing." Stone stepped forward. "Council members, humanity has always been skilled at adaptation. It's how we survived on our world, and it's how we'll make our place in the galaxy. Titan represents not just our technical abilities, but our perspective. We see connections where others see only separate paths." Whispers ran through the chamber as representatives debated among themselves. Finally, Ambassador Drell addressed Stone directly. "Captain, your ship is impressive. I cannot deny that. But it represents a potential shift in power that many find concerning. In the interests of galactic stability," Kroll added, "we propose that Earth surrender the Titan and all related research to Federation control. In exchange, we would grant Earth increased status and protection." Stone's expression hardened. "The Titan belongs to Earth. It was built by human hands from materials you discarded. It is not for sale or surrender." "Then you leave us no choice," Kroll said darkly. "The Vosh Dominion cannot allow such a vessel to remain under the control of an unpredictable species. If you will not surrender it voluntarily, we will take it by force." The chamber erupted in chaos as other representatives objected or supported Kroll's position. The council moderator tried unsuccessfully to restore order. Stone looked at Wilson, both understanding the gravity of the moment. Then he turned back to address the council. "Humanity came to the stars seeking friendship and knowledge," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "Instead, we found condescension and threats. If the Federation wishes conflict, remember this: you gave us scraps, and we built the Titan. Imagine what we can do when we truly set our minds to something." As Stone and his team left the chamber, alerts were already sounding throughout the station. The Vosh Dominion had declared humans to be rogue agents, dangerous to galactic stability. A battle fleet was being dispatched to the Sol system. Back aboard Titan, Stone called his senior staff together. "It seems our demonstration had unintended consequences," he said grimly. "They're afraid," Wilson replied. "As they should be. We've accomplished in 1 year what they couldn't imagine in centuries." The Vosh fleet will reach our system in 3 days, Reed reported. At least 20 warships, maybe more. Stone looked around at the faces of his crew, human faces filled with determination and pride. Then we have 3 days to prepare, he said. The Titan was built for this moment. Time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do. Wilson nodded, a fierce light in her eyes. They thought we were weak. Let's show them how wrong they were. The Vosh battle fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system exactly when they said they would. 23 warships, each bigger than anything humans had built before Titan, moved in perfect formation toward Earth. Inside Titan's bridge, Captain Stone watched the tactical display with calm determination. Earth had only a handful of conventional warships that could barely threaten a single Vosh vessel, let alone an entire fleet. Titan stood alone as humanity's true defense. All personnel report ready for combat, Captain, the first officer announced. Stone nodded. Chief Engineer Wilson, status of our systems. Wilson looked up from her console. Hybrid core at full capacity. All systems optimized. Atlas has run over 10,000 battle simulations in the last 3 days. And what do those simulations tell us? Stone asked. Wilson exchanged glances with Dias. That conventional tactics won't work. We're outnumbered 23-1. So we'll use unconventional tactics, Stone said with a slight smile. That's what Titan was built for. He turned to Reed at the tactical station. Weapons status. All weapons systems charged and ready, Reed replied. But like Wilson said, even with our advanced systems, we can't take on the entire fleet head-on. We don't need to defeat them all, Stone said. We just need to show them that fighting us costs too much. He straightened in his chair. Helm, set intercept course. Let's meet them halfway. Admiral Krex of the Vosh Dominion watched the approaching human vessel with contempt. One ship against his fleet. The humans were either brave or stupid. They're hailing us. Admiral, his communications officer reported. Ignore it, Krex ordered. All ships, prepare firing solutions. Target their engines first. His tactical officer turned in surprise. Sir, standard protocol requires we offer surrender terms before. These are humans, Krex interrupted. Unpredictable and dangerous. The Council has declared them rogue agents. Fire on my command. They're not responding to hails, the communications officer told Stone. As expected, Stone replied. They're preparing to fire. Reed, initiate defense pattern Alpha. Defense pattern Alpha, Reed confirmed, entering commands into his console. The Titan suddenly accelerated, its unusual drive system pushing it to speeds that made the Vosh targeting systems struggle to track it. Enemy fleet is firing, Reed reported. The space around Titan lit up as energy beams from multiple Vosh ships converged on their position. But instead of impacting directly, the beams seemed to bend around the ship, some passing harmlessly by, others reflected back toward their sources. Distortion field working perfectly, Wilson announced with satisfaction. They can't get a solid lock on us. Now for Phase 2, Stone ordered. Dias, launch the drones. Dias nodded and activated a sequence. Drones away. Small objects shot out from Titan's launch bays, speeding toward the Vosh fleet. They were modified versions of the Federation spy drone they had captured months ago, enhanced with human adaptations. The Vosh ships are trying to target the drones, Reed reported, but they're too small and fast. What are those humans doing? Admiral Krex demanded as his sensors detected the small objects approaching his fleet. Scan those drones. They appear to be unarmed, Admiral, his science officer reported, confused. Just small reconnaissance units. Krex relaxed slightly. Ignore them. Focus fire on their main ship. The drones slipped past the Vosh defenses, attaching themselves to the hulls of several key warships. Once in place, they activated their primary function, not weapons, but an information virus designed by Dias. Drones have attached to 6 of their ships, Dias reported. Beginning data infiltration. The Vosh ships suddenly found their communication systems flooded with conflicting commands. Their highly networked fleet, designed to function as a single unit, began to experience confusion as false orders and sensor readings spread from ship to ship. What's happening? Krex demanded as his displays showed 3 of his ships breaking formation. Something is interfering with fleet communications, his officer replied, frantically working his controls. It's coming from those drones. They're injecting false data into our network. Isolate the affected ships, Krex ordered. All vessels switched to backup communication protocols. But it was too late. The confusion had already spread, and the perfect formation of the Vosh fleet was breaking down. They're disorganized, Stone observed. Now, Reed, target their flagship with a warning shot, just enough to get their attention. Reed smiled and activated Titan's main weapon system, a hybrid creation that combined 3 different alien technologies into something entirely new. A beam of energy unlike anything seen in the Federation before lanced out from the human ship, striking the Vosh flagship's forward shields. The impact wasn't enough to destroy the shields, but it created a visible shockwave that rippled across the flagship's hull. Impossible, Krex whispered, staring at the damage report. A single shot drained our forward shields by 60%. What kind of weapon is that? The Vosh fleet responded with a barrage of fire, but the Titan was already moving, its distortion field and conventional shields working together to absorb or deflect the incoming attacks. We've got their attention, Stone said. Let's show them what else we can do. Cooper, execute jump pattern Omega. Jump pattern Omega. Aye, Cooper confirmed. The Titan suddenly vanished from its position, reappearing seconds later behind the Vosh fleet. Another shot from its main weapon disabled the engines of one of the trailing warships. Then it jumped again, appearing at a different position, targeting another ship and jumping away before the Vosh could effectively respond. They're using some kind of modified jump drive, Krex's science officer reported in disbelief. They can make precision jumps in a battle situation. That's supposed to be impossible. After disabling the engines or weapons of 5 Vosh ships without destroying any, Titan reappeared directly in front of the flagship. This time, instead of firing, it broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Jack Stone of the Earth warship Titan. Stone's voice rang out across the Vosh fleet. We have demonstrated only a fraction of our capabilities. We have no desire to destroy your ships or harm your crews, but we will defend our system. Return to Federation space and inform your leaders that Earth is not to be threatened. In the aftermath of what would become known as the Battle of Sol, the galaxy's balance of power shifted dramatically. The Vosh Dominion, humiliated by their defeat at the hands of a single human vessel, withdrew their claims against Earth. The Federation Council, faced with evidence of human ingenuity, voted to elevate Earth's status. Captain Stone stood once again in the Federation Council chamber, this time as an honored representative rather than a dismissed newcomer. Humanity offers peace and cooperation to all species, he told the assembled delegates. But we will stand against any who seek to dominate or oppress others. The Titan was built not to conquer, but to protect. In the months that followed, ships from smaller Federation races began visiting Earth in increasing numbers. They came not to threaten, but to learn. Humanity's approach to technology, combining different traditions rather than following a single path, offered new possibilities to species who had felt trapped by the dominant powers. On the observation deck of Titan, now in orbit around Earth as a symbol of human achievement, Wilson stood with Stone watching a delegation of young aliens being given a tour of the ship. Not bad for a bunch of primitives with scraps, Wilson said with a smile. Stone nodded. We showed them something they'd forgotten. That innovation comes from looking at old problems in new ways. And now they're all watching to see what we'll do next, Wilson added. And what are we doing next? Stone asked. Wilson's eyes gleamed with excitement. Based on what we learned building Titan, I've already drawn up plans for the next generation of ships. Smaller, faster, with even more integration of different technologies. A fleet of Titans, Stone asked. Wilson shook her head. Not copies, evolutions, each with its own specialties and innovations. If one Titan could change the galaxy's power structure, imagine what a dozen different human-designed ships could do. Stone smiled, looking out at the stars. They gave us scrap, and we built a future they never imagined, Wilson finished. Beyond Earth, in the vast expanse of the Eclipse galaxy, the word spread from world to world. Watch the humans. They may look simple, but their minds see connections that others miss. They build the massive view screen on the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, filled with stars as Captain James Walker stood watching, his hands clasped behind his back. The ship hummed quietly around him, a sound unlike any other vessel in Earth's fleet. While other ships rumbled and vibrated, the Defiant purred like a content cat, her experimental quantum engines working in perfect harmony. Status report, Walker called out, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. The bridge crew worked at their stations, each movement precise and practiced. They knew what was coming. Humanity's first official contact with alien life. All systems normal, Captain, replied Officer Tom Wilson from his engineering station. Quantum shields at full power, plasma drives running at optimal efficiency. He paused, checking another reading. Sir, I still can't believe how smooth she runs. Nothing this advanced should work this well. Walker smiled. The Defiant was unlike anything humanity had ever built. Her hull was angular and sleek, more like something from a video game than a military vessel. When the design was first proposed, many had laughed. Now, no one was laughing. Contact approaching, sir, announced Mary Cooper from her communication station. Her fingers danced across the holographic display. 3 vessels, classification unknown. They're big, each one about 3 times our size. Walker nodded. Main screen. The view shifted, showing 3 massive ships approaching. They were everything humans had expected alien ships to look like. Huge, circular vessels that practically screamed advanced technology. Next to them, the Defiant looked like a child's toy. They're hailing us, Cooper reported. Audio and visual. On screen, Walker ordered, straightening his uniform. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for. First contact. Real first contact, not counting the secret that lay behind the Defiant's creation. The screen flickered, and an alien appeared. It looked surprisingly humanoid, though its skin had a slight bluish tint, and its eyes were larger than human norm. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform, though the design was unlike anything on Earth. Greetings, Earth vessel. The alien spoke, its words automatically translated by the ship's eye. I am Admiral Dex of the Stellar Confederation. We have been monitoring your civilization's development with great interest. Walker stepped forward. Welcome, Admiral. I am Captain James Walker of the United Earth Ship Defiant. We are honored to make your acquaintance. The alien's expression changed slightly, its eyes narrowing as it studied the bridge behind Walker. Interesting vessel you have, Captain. Our scans indicate technology that should be beyond your civilization's current capabilities. Would you care to explain? Walker had been prepared for this question. The Defiant represents the pinnacle of human innovation. Admiral, she's the result of our best minds working together to push the boundaries of what's possible. Impossible. Another alien voice cut in off-screen. A second figure stepped into view, this one wearing what appeared to be a scientific uniform. We have monitored your civilization's technological progression. The jump from your other vessels to this one is too great. Someone has aided you. Someone has violated the non-interference protocols. Walker kept his expression neutral, though inside his mind was racing. They hadn't expected the aliens to be quite so direct in their accusations. I assure you, the Defiant is entirely of human design and construction. We would be happy to provide documentation of her development process. Admiral Dex raised a hand, silencing his colleague. Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing. Your vessel's design is unusual, even by our standards. Would you be willing to participate in a small exercise? What kind of exercise? Walker asked, though he already knew where this was going. The crew tensed around him, ready for anything. A simple demonstration of capabilities, Dex replied smoothly. 3 of our older vessels against your 1. Simulated combat, of course. No real weapons fire, just an exchange of targeting data and maneuver tracking. If your ship performs as well as your claims suggest, it would go a long way toward validating your level of advancement. Walker glanced at his crew. They had trained for this, prepared for this moment. The Defiant might look like science fiction, but she was very, very real. We accept your challenge, Admiral. Please transmit the exercise parameters when ready. The alien's expression was unreadable. Excellent. We will begin in 1 Earth hour. And Captain, I look forward to seeing what your vessel can do. The transmission ended, and the bridge was silent for a moment. Then Officer Wilson spoke up from his station. They don't believe we built her ourselves. No, they don't. Walker agreed, turning to face his crew. And they're partially right. We had help, just not the kind they're thinking of. He walked to the center of the bridge, looking at each crew member in turn. The Defiant exists because of human ingenuity, determination, and our ability to learn from the past. What they don't understand is that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to take dreams and turn them into reality. Sir, Cooper called out, receiving exercise parameters now. There, sir, these are combat scenarios far beyond anything we've trained for. The timing requirements alone. Walker smiled. Show them on the main screen. The display filled with tactical data, showing complex maneuvers and response patterns that would challenge even the Defiant's advanced systems. Look familiar to anyone? Wilson laughed suddenly. Video games. Sir, these are almost exactly like the combat scenarios from Star Squadron VI. The patterns, the timing, they're gaming scenarios. Exactly. Walker nodded. Because when humanity dreams of space combat, we don't just imagine it. We turn it into entertainment. We practice it. We perfect it. Every kid who ever played a space combat game was unknowingly training for this moment. He turned back to the main screen, watching the 3 alien vessels take up position for the exercise. And that's why we're going to win. Because while they were developing these scenarios as theoretical exercises, we were turning theory into art. 30 minutes until the exercise begins, sir, Cooper announced. Walker sat in his command chair, feeling the subtle hum of the quantum engines through the deck. Run final system checks. I want everything perfect. He smiled slightly. Let's show them that science fiction doesn't always stay fiction, not when humans are involved. The bridge crew turned to their stations, preparations beginning in earnest. Through the view screen, the 3 alien vessels loomed large against the star field. They were impressive, intimidating even. But the Defiant had a secret weapon they couldn't match, the unshakable human belief that anything was possible if you wanted it badly enough. In less than an hour, they would prove that sometimes reality could be even more incredible than fiction. The game was about to begin, and humanity's future hung in the balance. But as Walker watched his crew work, he felt nothing but confidence. The Defiant might look like something out of science fiction, but she was very real. And she was about to show the galaxy exactly what humanity could do. 10 years earlier, Dr. Thomas Reed sat bolt upright in his bed, his heart pounding and his mind racing with equations he didn't fully understand. It was the 3rd night in a row he'd dreamed of strange machines and impossible physics. But these weren't just dreams. They felt like memories. He stumbled to his desk, barely taking time to turn on the light before grabbing his tablet. His fingers flew across the screen, trying to capture the formulas before they faded like morning mist. The numbers didn't make sense. The theories contradicted everything he knew about quantum mechanics. But somehow, deep in his bones, he knew they were right. "Computer, display Project Quantum Shield notes," he commanded, his voice rough from sleep. The holographic display lit up, showing his previous work. Side by side with his new equations, patterns began to emerge. Impossible patterns. Beautiful patterns. The next morning, Reed walked into the Advanced Projects Lab at the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He hadn't. Other scientists looked up as he passed, then quickly looked away. They'd all heard the rumors. Brilliant Dr. Reed was losing his mind, chasing impossible dreams. "Dr. Reed," called out Director Williams, stepping out of his office. "A moment of your time." It wasn't really a request. Reed followed the older man into his office, already knowing what was coming. The director's desk was covered with Reed's recent project proposals, each one marked with bright red Reed GECTD stamps. "Tom," Williams said, sitting down heavily, "you're one of our best minds. But these proposals, quantum shields that bend reality, plasma drives that ignore conservation of energy, it's science fiction, not science." Reed placed his tablet on the desk and pulled up his latest equations. "Look at this. Really look at it. The math works. I can prove it works. We just need to think beyond conventional physics." Williams sighed, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Where did these ideas come from, Tom? And don't tell me they came to you in dreams again." "Not dreams," Reed said quietly. "Memories. My grandfather's memories." He pulled an old, worn photograph from his pocket and placed it on the desk. It showed his grandfather standing in front of what looked like a crashed aircraft, but the design was like nothing that should have existed in 1947. Williams picked up the photo, his eyes widening. "What is this?" "My grandfather was part of a recovery team. He never told anyone what he saw, what he worked on. But before he died, he held my hand, and something happened. He transferred something to me. Not just memories, understanding." The director was silent for a long moment, studying the photo. Finally, he opened his desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder marked classified. Inside was another copy of the same photograph, but this one was in better condition. It showed more of the crash site, including strange symbols on the craft's hull. "We've been sitting on this for decades," Williams said. "The best minds in the world couldn't make sense of the technology we recovered. But you." He looked at Reed's equations again. "You're not just copying it, are you? You're improving it." Reed nodded. "The aliens who built that ship were advanced, but they were linear in their thinking. Humans, we think differently. We make intuitive leaps. We see patterns where others see chaos. My grandfather understood that. He knew we could do more than just reverse engineer their tech. We could make it better." The next 5 years were a blur of activity. Reed led a team of engineers and scientists who took his dreams and turned them into reality. The quantum shield generator they built was half the size of the alien original but twice as powerful. The plasma drive system incorporated principles that seemed to defy physics itself, but worked perfectly in practice. When construction began on the U.S. Defiant, many questioned her unusual design. But Reed knew every angle, every curve had a purpose. The ship wasn't just a vessel, it was a statement. Humanity announcing to the galaxy that they weren't just ready for the stars, they were ready to revolutionize space travel itself. Reed stood in the observation room, watching as construction robots assembled the Defiant's hull. Behind him, a heated argument was taking place between military officials and project supervisors. "It looks like something out of a video game," one admiral complained. "How are we supposed to take this seriously?" "That's exactly the point," Reed said, not turning around. Everyone fell silent. Video games, science fiction, movies, while other species were carefully plotting out each step of their technological evolution, humanity was dreaming, imagining, creating visions of what could be. And now, he pressed his hand against the glass, smiling as another hull plate locked into place. Now we're making those dreams real. But the design, another official protested. It's not practical. It's not traditional. Reed turned to face them. Neither was the first airplane. Neither was the first submarine. Every great leap forward in human history came from someone looking at the conventional wisdom and saying, what if we tried something different? He walked to the conference table and pulled up the ship's specifications. Every angle serves a purpose. The quantum shields don't just protect the ship. They bend reality around her. The hull design enhances that effect. The plasma drives don't just move the ship. They create possibilities that other species never imagined because they were too focused on what they thought was possible. The room was quiet as the officials studied the data. Finally, the first admiral spoke again. And you're certain this will work? That when we meet alien life, this ship will prove humanity's worth? Reed smiled, thinking of his grandfather. This ship isn't just going to prove our worth. It's going to show the galaxy that humanity has something unique to offer. We don't just adopt technology. We reimagine it. We improve it. We make the impossible possible. As the officials filed out, Reed stayed behind, watching the construction continue. He pulled out his grandfather's old photo and looked at it one more time. You knew, didn't you? He whispered. You knew we'd take what you found and turn it into something amazing. The Defiant's hull gleamed under the construction lights, her unconventional design a testament to human creativity and determination. In a few years, she would meet her first real test, a test that would prove to the galaxy that sometimes the most fantastic dreams could become reality. And when that day came, humanity would be ready to take its place among the stars, not as students of alien technology, but as innovators who could turn science fiction into science fact. Reed touched the photo one last time before putting it away. His grandfather's legacy wasn't just the alien technology he had helped recover. It was the understanding that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to dream big and then work tirelessly to make those dreams come true. The Defiant wasn't just a warship that looked like science fiction. She was proof that with enough imagination and determination, humanity could make fiction into reality. Admiral Dex stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the small Earth vessel with growing unease. The Defiant should not exist. Its very presence challenged everything the Stellar Confederation believed about technological progress. Species were supposed to advance in predictable, measurable steps. Yet here was this impossible ship, built by a civilization that had only achieved spaceflight a century ago. The exercise parameters have been transmitted, reported his science officer. Their captain has accepted all conditions without protest. Of course he did, Dex muttered. Because either they're lying about building that ship themselves, or he didn't finish the thought. The alternative was more disturbing, that humans had somehow made advances that took other species centuries to achieve. On the Defiant's bridge, Captain Walker reviewed the combat exercise parameters one final time. The alien challenges were complex, but there was something oddly familiar about them. Each scenario followed perfect logical progression, like a computer program working through every possible variation. They think too much like machines, Walker said to his crew. Look at these attack patterns. Everything is optimal. Perfect. They've probably run millions of simulations to determine the absolute best approach to every situation. And that's their weakness, Officer Wilson added from his engineering station. They're not accounting for human unpredictability. Walker nodded. Exactly. They've given us 3 scenarios to test our capabilities. But they're testing us against their own standards, not ours. He turned to his tactical officer. Load combat pattern Delta 7. Sir? The tactical officer looked surprised. That's a training scenario from the academy. It's not. Not logical. Walker smiled. That's exactly why we're going to use it. Begin recording all sensor data. I want the aliens to see exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. No tricks, no hidden capabilities. Just pure human ingenuity. The three alien vessels moved into position, their massive forms creating a triangle around the much smaller Defiant. In the observation room of Dex's flagship, dozens of alien scientists and military officers gathered to watch. Many had bet their reputations on proving that humans must have had help developing their technology. "Exercise begins in 3 minutes," announced the automated system. All vessels confirm ready status. On the Defiant's bridge, Walker took a deep breath. "Shield status. Quantum shields at full power," Wilson reported. "The aliens are trying to scan them, but the physics involved are giving their sensors fits. I don't think they've ever seen anything like our shield pattern." "They haven't," Walker said, "because no one else would think to design shields based on video game boss battles." Dr. Reed was a genius for realizing that sometimes the most effective solution isn't the most logical one. The countdown reached 0, and the exercise began. Immediately, the alien vessels began executing their planned maneuvers. Their movements were perfect, precise, and completely predictable. "Pattern recognized," called out the tactical officer. "They're using standard Confederation fleet tactics. According to their exercise parameters, their simulated weapons should be overwhelming our shields right now." Walker grinned. "But they're not, are they? Because our shields don't work like they expect shields to work." Wilson, execute defense pattern Mario. Several alien observers gasped as the Defiant's shield suddenly shifted, creating what appeared to be rotating geometric patterns around the ship. The effect wasn't just visual. It was causing their targeting systems to have fits. "What are they doing?" demanded one of Dex's science officers. "Those shield harmonics make no sense. The power requirements alone should be impossible to maintain." Dex watched in growing amazement as the Earth ship began to move. Instead of trying to maintain optimal distance and firing positions, the Defiant was dancing. There was no other word for it. The ship spun and weaved through space, like it was performing for an audience rather than engaging in combat. "Sir," Wilson called out on the Defiant's bridge, "their targeting systems are going crazy trying to predict our movement patterns. They can't get a solid lock because they're trying to calculate where we should be based on normal physics." "That's because we're not using normal physics," Walker replied. "We're using video game physics. The quantum shields don't just protect us. They bend reality around us. And reality doesn't always have to make perfect sense." The alien vessels attempted to adjust their tactics, but every time they thought they had the Defiant figured out, the Earth ship would do something new. It would spin when it should have banked, accelerate when it should have slowed, and create shield patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "This is impossible," one of Dex's officers declared. "They must be cheating somehow. No ship can move like that." But Dex was beginning to understand. "They're not cheating," he said quietly. "They're playing. Look at their movement patterns. They're not trying to find the optimal solution. They're having fun." The exercise continued, and with each passing minute, the aliens' perfectly planned strategies fell apart in the face of human creativity. The Defiant didn't just avoid their simulated attacks, it turned their own tactics against them, using moves that seemed to come straight out of science fiction. "Final scenario complete," announced the automated system. Exercise concluded. Analyzing results. The bridge of the Defiant erupted in cheers, but Walker quickly raised his hand for silence. "Send the full sensor data to the alien flagship," he ordered. "Everything. Shield harmonics, engine outputs, power distribution. Let them see exactly how we did it." Admiral Dex received the data personally. As he reviewed it, his expression changed from skepticism to surprise to something approaching awe. The humans hadn't just built an advanced ship. They'd completely reimagined how a ship could work. "Sir," his science officer reported, "analysis confirms it. Their technology is real, and it's entirely their own design. In fact, some of these innovations, they're beyond anything in our database. They've taken basic principles and developed them in ways we never considered." Dex nodded slowly. Because we were too focused on finding the right answer. They were focused on finding new questions. He straightened up. Prepare for transmission to Earth. I believe we owe Captain Walker and his crew an apology, and perhaps an invitation to teach us a few things about thinking differently. On the Defiant, Walker looked at his crew with pride. They hadn't just proven that their ship was real. They'd shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their ability to imagine new possibilities and then make them real. Mary Cooper's fingers flew across her communications console as she analyzed the flood of data coming from the alien vessels, while everyone else on the Defiance bridge focused on the ongoing combat exercise. She had noticed something odd in the alien transmissions. There was a pattern there, hidden beneath the surface. "Captain," she called out, not taking her eyes off her screen. "I think I found something interesting about their combat systems." Walker turned away from the main view screen where the alien ships were regrouping for another attack run. "What have you got, Cooper?" "Their ships. They're running on autopilot. Not completely, but their combat systems are almost entirely automated. The crew is just there to monitor and override if necessary." She pulled up more data streams, confirming her theory. "And the automation is based entirely on combat simulations. Millions of them, all running in real time." Wilson leaned over from his engineering station to look at her screen. "That explains why their attacks are so predictable. They're letting computers do all the work based on pre-programmed scenarios." "More than that," Cooper continued, excitement creeping into her voice. "Look at their response times. When we do something unexpected, there's a delay. Not in their ship's reactions. Those are instant. But in their crew's reactions. They're not used to having to actually make combat decisions." Walker walked over to her station, studying the data. "They've gotten so dependent on their simulations that they don't know how to handle situations their computers haven't predicted." He smiled slowly. "And everything we do is something their computers haven't predicted." The Defiant shook slightly as another simulated attack bounced off their quantum shields. The aliens had adapted their tactics, but they were still trying to fight according to their programmed rules. It was like watching a chess computer try to play against someone who kept changing the rules of the game. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "they're forming up for another attack run. Pattern suggests they're going to try to surround us again." "Let them," Walker ordered. "Cooper, can you tap into their combat simulation network?" "Not to interfere. I just want to see what their computers are telling them." Cooper nodded, her hands dancing across the holographic controls. "Already working on it, sir. Their security is good, but it's predictable, like everything else they do." A new display appeared on her screen, showing complex mathematical models and combat predictions. "Got it. Their systems are trying to calculate our next move based on their historical combat data." Walker laughed. "Historical combat data that doesn't include anything like the Defiant. No wonder their predictions keep failing." He turned to Wilson. "How are our shields holding up?" "Better than expected, sir," Wilson replied. "The quantum field is actually getting stronger the more they attack it. Dr. Reed's design is doing exactly what he said it would. It's learning and adapting. The aliens' weapons would probably work great against conventional shields, but against ours," he shrugged. "It's like they're trying to play rock, paper, scissors with someone who keeps inventing new hand signals." On the alien flagship, Admiral Dex was reaching a similar conclusion. His bridge crew watched in growing frustration as their sophisticated combat computers repeatedly failed to predict or counter the Defiant's movements. "Impossible," one of his tactical officers muttered. "Our simulations have covered every possible combat scenario, every possible ship configuration, every possible tactical decision. How can they keep surprising us?" "Because," Dex replied slowly, "their entire approach is based on surprising us. Look at their ship design. It doesn't follow any logical progression of technological development. Look at their tactics. They're not trying to find optimal solutions. They're creating new problems we've never considered." He stood up and walked closer to the main view screen, watching as the Defiant executed another impossible maneuver. We've spent centuries perfecting our combat simulations, making them more and more sophisticated. But in doing so, we've trapped ourselves in a box of our own making. We can only fight the way we've trained to fight. The Defiant spun suddenly, its quantum shields creating patterns that made it look like there were multiple ships for a moment. The alien targeting computers went crazy, trying to lock onto all the phantom images at once. "Sir," Cooper called out on the Defiant's bridge, "their combat computers are starting to crash. They're getting too many conflicting data points. Their crews are having to take manual control." Walker nodded. "Now we'll see how well they can actually fight." He turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare for real combat maneuvers. Not the showy stuff we've been doing. Let's show them what the Defiant can really do when we get serious." The Earth ship's movements changed suddenly. Gone were the flashy spins and twirls. Instead, the Defiant began moving with deadly precision, each action flowing smoothly into the next. It was like watching a martial artist switch from a demonstration routine to actual combat. The alien crews, forced to rely on their own skills rather than their computers, found themselves completely outmatched. Without their combat simulations to guide them, they struggled to coordinate their actions or predict where the Defiant would be next. "Message from Admiral Dex," Cooper announced. He's calling for an early end to the exercise." Walker raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" Cooper's face broke into a grin as she read the message. "He says there's no point in continuing. Quote, you've not only proven your ship's capabilities, you've exposed a critical flaw in our entire approach to space combat. We've become so reliant on predictions and simulations that we've forgotten how to truly fight." The bridge crew exchanged proud looks as Walker composed a response. "Tell the Admiral we accept the early conclusion, and add that we would be happy to arrange joint training exercises in the future without combat computers." As the alien ships powered down their weapons systems, Wilson spoke up from his engineering station. "Sir, do you think they understand yet what really makes the Defiant special?" Walker looked around at his crew, humans who had taken an impossible dream and turned it into reality. "They're beginning to. The Defiant isn't just a ship that looks like science fiction. She's proof that sometimes the best way to advance isn't to follow a careful, logical progression of small steps. Sometimes you have to take a giant leap and trust in your ability to make it work." Cooper's console beeped with another incoming message. "Sir, Admiral Dex is requesting permission to send a team of observers to Earth. He says the Stellar Confederation needs to learn more about human intuition and creativity." "And there it is," Walker said softly. "Tell him we'll be happy to teach them, as soon as they're ready to learn that the most powerful technology isn't the one that follows all the rules. It's the one that dares to break them." Dr. Thomas Reed stood in the observation lounge of the Stellar Confederation's flagship, watching as engineers from a dozen alien species studied holographic displays of the Defiant's systems. 2 weeks had passed since the combat exercise, and the aliens still couldn't quite believe what they were seeing. "But the power requirements should be impossible," one alien engineer insisted, pointing at the quantum shield specifications. "The energy needed to bend space-time in this way." "That's because you're thinking about it wrong," Reed explained patiently. "You're trying to force reality to match your calculations. We did it the other way around. We imagined what we wanted to achieve, then figured out how to make reality agree with us." Admiral Dex stood quietly in the corner, watching the exchange. The past 2 weeks had turned everything he thought he knew about technological advancement upside down. Humans didn't just think differently, they dreamed differently. On the Defiance bridge, Captain Walker was having a similar conversation with a group of alien tactical officers. They had requested a demonstration of the ship's combat capabilities without any computer assistance at all. "Your movements during the exercise," one officer asked. "They seemed random, chaotic. But they weren't, were they?" Walker shook his head. "Far from it. Every move was based on decades of human imagination. Video games, Movies, books. We've been practicing space combat in our minds long before we ever reached the stars. But that's not real combat experience, another officer protested. Isn't it? Walker smiled. What is experience except learning what works and what doesn't? While your civilization was running computer simulations, humanity was playing games where we had to think creatively, adapt quickly, and imagine new solutions. We weren't just playing. We were preparing. In the engineering section, Wilson was showing a group of alien technicians how the Defiant's plasma drive system worked. Their expressions ranged from disbelief to awe as he explained the principles behind it. The system shouldn't be stable, one technician said, shaking his head. The energy flow patterns are based on the way water moves in a river, Wilson finished. Dr. Reed got the idea watching his grandson play with toy boats. Nature doesn't always follow the most logical path. It finds the path that works. Mary Cooper had perhaps the most interesting task. The aliens had asked her to explain how she had managed to decode their combat computer systems so quickly. She sat at her station, surrounded by curious alien communications officers. Your security was perfect by your standards, she explained. But that was the problem. It was too perfect, too predictable. Humans, we make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes lead to discoveries that perfect logic would never find. Back in the observation lounge, Reed pulled out his grandfather's old photograph. An alien scientist noticed it and asked about its significance. Reed handed it over, watching as the alien studied it carefully. "This was your inspiration?" the alien asked. "A crashed ship from your past?" "Not exactly," Reed replied. "The ship gave us some basic principles, yes. But the real inspiration came from my grandfather's understanding that humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to copy technology. It's our ability to reimagine it." The alien looked confused. "But your quantum shields, your plasma drives, they're based on technology from this crashed ship." "In the same way that modern aircraft are based on the Wright brothers' first plane," Reed explained. "We took the basic concepts and then asked ourselves, what if? What if shields could do more than just block attacks? What if engines could do more than just move a ship? What if we stopped trying to follow the logical path and started blazing our own trail?" Admiral Dex finally stepped forward. "The Stellar Confederation has existed for over 1,000 years, he said. In all that time, we've prided ourselves on our logical, methodical approach to advancement. But in just a few generations, humanity has shown us that there might be another way." He turned to look out at the stars. "We've spent centuries perfecting what we know. You've spent centuries imagining what could be. And somehow, that led you to create a warship that looks like it came straight from science fiction." "That's exactly where it came from," Reed said quietly. "Every advancement humanity has ever made started as someone's dream. Someone's crazy idea that just might work if we tried hard enough." On the bridge, Walker was finishing his demonstration. The alien officers had finally stopped trying to analyze the Defiant's movements and started to appreciate the artistry of her design. "Your ship," one officer said, "it's not just advanced. It's beautiful. Even its combat maneuvers are like a dance." Walker nodded. "Because we never forgot that technology shouldn't just be efficient. It should inspire. The Defiant doesn't just fight well. She makes people dream about what else might be possible." Admiral Dex gathered everyone in the main conference room for a final announcement. Representatives from Earth stood on one side, the alien delegation on the other. The Admiral looked at both groups before speaking. "The Stellar Confederation hereby formally recognizes Earth as an advanced spacefaring civilization," he announced. "But more than that, we would like to propose a new partnership. We have much to teach humanity about the stars, but it seems humanity has even more to teach us about reaching for them." Reed thought about his grandfather as the room erupted in applause. The old man hadn't just passed on alien technology. He'd passed on the understanding that humanity's greatest gift was its ability to take dreams and forge them into reality. The Defiant hung in space between the Earth and alien vessels, her unusual design no longer drawing skeptical looks but admiring ones. She was proof that sometimes the most fantastic dreams could become reality, that science fiction could become science fact, and that humanity's place among the stars would be earned not by following in others' footsteps, but by daring to walk their own path. Walker stood on his bridge, looking out at the assembled ships. "Send a message to all vessels," he ordered. "The Defiant is ready to begin joint training exercises whenever they are." Cooper smiled as she transmitted the message. "Should we show them our old science fiction collection?" "Sir, give them some inspiration." "One step at a time," Walker laughed. "First, let's show them that sometimes the best way to advance isn't to calculate every possibility. It's to imagine something impossible and then find a way to make it work." The stars stretched out before them, full of possibilities that even the Stellar Confederation had never imagined. But that was all right. Humanity was ready to help them learn how to dream bigger. After all, that's what humans did best.